Hello and welcome to lesson 1 of week 12, where we're talking about rate of change and slope. By the end of this lesson, I'm hoping that you'll be able to calculate the rate of change from tables, graphs, or a set of points, and describe what is changing in each of those things. So, as you look at this picture, you might be wondering which part of this ski lift is the steepest. And it looks like maybe the first part or maybe the third part would be the steepest. How do we tell? Well, if we would put a grid behind it and give it a little meaning with labels, you'd be able to find for sure which area is the steepest. And we're going to take a look on how to do that next. So rate of change. Rate of change is how quickly something is increasing or decreasing. Rate of change is also called slope. So those are interchangeable for us. The formula for slope is rise over run. You may have heard of that before. And the way you figure that out is you take y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, what are y2, y1, x2, and x1? What are those? Those are just points. So those are going to be numbers that you're going to get from certain relations, which we talked about in the previous week. So 0.1, 0.2, those little ones mean. So the first x coordinate and the first y coordinate, and the second x coordinate and the second y coordinate. If we have 2 points, we can calculate slope. So where do we find points? Well, we could get points from a table of values. So you can see here, the quantity is representing our x values and the price is representing our y values. So 1, 350 would be x1, y1. We could also get points from a graph. So you can see that I took some of the points from that table and put them on the graph, showing you x1 and y1, and then x2, y2. You could also get it from a set of points. So just listed like that, and you get x1, y1, x2, y2, and x3, y3. Those aren't used in our formula, but yeah. So we're going to actually find slope from this graph. When we find slope, we need to find 2 points. So first thing you want to make sure you understand is our x coordinate, or x axis, sorry, represents hours. You can see that down here. And our y axis represents miles. It's going to come into play when we put meaning to this slope. So let's write down the slope formula. Rise over run, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We got to find those points. Well, there's a nice point there, which is at 0, 0. There's also a nice point there. That red line crosses the grid exactly right there, which is the point 140. We can use those 2 points to find our slope. So y2 is 40. It's the second y value. Minus y1, which is 0. Our second x value is 1. Subtract the second x value, which is 0. So we get 40 over 1, which is, put a label on it, 40 what? Well, that 40 is representing the number of miles, and the 1 is representing the number of hours. So 40 miles per hour. Is it positive or negative rate of change? Well, it's going uphill, right? So it's a positive rate of change. It's increasing. So what is changing? Well, the number of miles traveled per hour is what's changing. So if you're driving this fast, after 1 hour, you will have traveled 40 miles. After 2 hours, you will have traveled 80 miles. What is the x-intercept and what does it mean? It's where it crosses the x-axis, right? So the x-intercept crosses at 0. What does that mean? It means when you have traveled for no time, when 0 hours have passed, you've traveled nowhere, 0 miles. Let's take a look at another example from a table. So we've got hours and degrees here. So we're looking at, again, we're going to try to find slope, rise over run, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We need 2 points from this table. Again, the hours represent our x, and the degrees represent our y. So we can take our first point there, so 37, and subtract another y value, we'll say 33. Okay. And then for the x value, 37 matches up with the 3, so the 3 has to come first, minus 5. And now we just subtract and simplify our slope. So 37 minus 3 is 33 is 4. 3 minus 5 is -2. 4 divided by -2 is -2 over 1, or just -2. So that's -2 degrees, right? It's going down 2 degrees for every 1 hour. So is it positive or negative? Well, it's negative, which means it's decreasing. And if I put that on a graph, you can see each point here, 337, 533, the temperature is dropping as time passes, right? You can also find rate of change from a set of points. So again, writing down our formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, we're going to take the first 2 points. The second y value is -7. The first y value is also -7, so minus -7. Be careful with your negatives here. Then you have 4 minus 1 for your x's. -7 minus -7 is like -7 plus 7, which is 0. 4 minus 1 is 3, which is just 0. 0 divided by anything is 0. Is it positive or negative? Well, it's neither. There's no change here. This is constant. So if I would graph this, you can see it's not increasing or decreasing. It's staying constant at -7. No label is given on this problem, so we can't put context on this. What's not changing? We don't really know since there's not a label. Okay, so that was just slope. Last one here, again, our slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We have x1, y1 there, and x2, y2. So 5 minus 2 over 4 minus 4. It's 3 over 0. Now, when 0 is on the bottom, pause the video real quick. Put 3 divided by 0 in your calculator. It should tell you something like error or domain error or cannot divide by 0. Because of that, we say that the slope is undefined. So a vertical line has an undefined slope. Okay, so in summary, we found rate of change, which is the same as slope, using a formula which calculated rise over run, and it was the change in y values over the change in x values. And if you see this little triangle, that means delta y, which means the change in y. How do you find the change in something? You subtract. That's why y2 minus y1 is on top, and x2 minus x1 is on the bottom. And that concludes lesson 1 of week 12.